أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين بارد الخلائق أجمعين سيدنا وسندنا وشفيعنا مولانا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين. Thank you all for coming to this leadership event and leadership and development event. Today's topic that we're discussing is leadership and personal development. Inshallah, in the next couple of days, we'll be carrying on with that topic. Something to note before I start that I'd like to, say, and that I've been requested to say, is we here are in a mixed gathering where the brothers are on one side and the sisters are on one side. And it's quite obvious, I don't have to say this, but Najaf say that it should be said in the gathering, that if everyone could display modest hijab and behavior and social, and obviously hijab should always be acknowledged at every single point in time, that'd be very much appreciated. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Now that that's off my chest, we can go ahead and start, inshallah. The reason this topic is important to me is because a lot of people think that leadership just kind of comes from within, and it's something that's just normally understood. I'm a person, I'm a human, I have these qualities, and I should naturally understand them. This is not only a course to kind of help people manage other people. It's not really that. It's helping you to manage yourself, and in turn, you'll be able to understand other people, and hopefully through that manage them. So it's more of self-management and managing others, and those two kind of relate hand in hand. And it's important to note here, the first slide is I want to put something in perspective that's really important. And that is the size of our planet is relatively small to everything that's around us. As grand as we may think we are so much smaller than the sun. And there are other planets that are much smaller than us and some that are bigger than us. And in perspective to the rest of the universe, we are extremely tiny and extremely small. And that's important to note because it shows us how insignificant we are. And in this small insignificance, many people decide to waste their times on petty, insignificant issues because they don't know how to manage themselves, their emotions, and other people. And that's a very big problem because we already have little time to begin with. We already are insignificant to begin with, and now we are much more insignificant because we're wasting our time on so many different things. And perhaps when a person realizes what qualities they have, and what things make them a leader, it helps them become more productive. It helps them fulfill more. Now, throughout this presentation, I don't want you to feel restricted or confined, okay? This is not formal at all. I want you, to be able, if any questions come up, raise your hand and say, look, I have a question. Or if you would like to interfere and say, look, I disagree with your point, or shed some light on your point, then I sure will, because this will kind of give you a different way of dealing with your life issues. And something that comes up is we all have issues day to day, right? How do I manage relationships with other people? How do I manage my own emotions? How do I manage other people? How do I get people to listen to me and do what I want them to do? How do I get people to stop arguing with me? And hopefully through today's presentation, we don't have that much time, but through today's presentation, we'll try to get as much of this possible. And for tomorrow night and the night after, we'll continue some of these concepts, inshallah. At certain points, we're going to be breaking up for different activities. So keep in mind that you might have to be partner up with somebody, find somebody in the room, of course, sisters with sisters and brothers with brothers. Find someone to partner up with because we're going to be having some activities that you kind of come together and work together to try to get some ideas going. Because I think I can't give you answers. You guys need to come up with answers to your own problems and the issues that you might face. And I'm here simply to facilitate. This is not me teaching you guys. This is not me telling you guys this is the way to do it, because very honestly, I might be younger than some of you in here. I might be younger than most of you in here. But it's me kind of facilitating a specific program to get us to come up and try to find the best way to resolve issues and to be leaders in our communities, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. To first begin, many people have this idea that a leader is an individual who is able to control other people. And he's able to manage other people and get them to do exactly what he wants. And there's a very skewed mentality with that, because a leader is not an individual who controls other people and tells other people what to do and how to do it. But a leader is a person who's in so much control of his emotions, his life, what he feels, and his thought process. A leader understands other people's worldviews and their processes and how they live, that he becomes a psychological master of other individuals. And without forcing them, without getting them to do things by force, he gets people to do exactly what he or she wants. Now, a lot of people, when they speak about leadership, they'll use the he form instead of the she form, and I want to balance both of those, because I really want to emphasize that as much as we have brothers who are leaders, sisters can be as good leaders or even better, and I've seen, both situations happen. And it's interesting to know that most people's worldview of leadership is, yes, how can I get power and dominate over other people and get them to do exactly what I want? And that's our typical thinking of what leadership is. And leadership is so drastically different than that. Mind you, most leaders are the most humble individuals who will suggest something to you, and without you even realizing, wow, that's such a great suggestion, I'm going to go ahead and do what you told me. And the person does not even put effort into trying to get you to do something. But they have understood you so well, and they've read you so well, whether it's your emotions or your past or what you're susceptible to, that they will immediately give you something which you will like, which you will understand, which you will relate to, and you will simply follow it because you believe in what they say. And leaders are very smart. I'm not saying they're manipulative people, but they are so understanding of themselves. And when I say understanding of themselves, I'm going to get to exactly what I mean when it gets to emotions and the real stuff, the real important stuff. Not understanding things in themselves as in, I like Harry Potter, or I like to watch Sherlock Holmes, for example. No, understanding themselves, I mean they know their skills. They know their emotions in and out. They know exactly what to do and what not to do in a specific situation. And this is really important because many people within committees, within masjids, within mosques, within universities, come up with leadership and committees and try to get things going. But the way they think it works is by everybody trying to be the leader. No, I want to jump on the bandwagon and lead, right? No, I want to lead this organization. I want to be president. I want my voice to be heard. I want to be the one who calls the shots. I want to be the one who makes the decisions. And a leader is not that at all. Rather, a leader is the smart, wise person who sits in the background and says, I see what you're doing, I understand it, and perhaps here's a better way to deal with things. Let me kind of get to the first point here. Adult learning and child learning are two very, very different things, and they need to be tackled in a very, very different way. When we talk to adults and when we talk to children, the lifestyle that's involved with adults and children and the learning style is so drastically different that we typically talk to adults and we talk to children in the same way without even realizing it. When we talk to a child that we want them to do something, meaning, for example, let's say a mother will tell her child, son, please go to pray. Or son, you must pray. The same mother might turn around to her husband and say the same thing, you need to go pray right now. Or you need to stop abusing me right now. You need to be kind to me right now. You need to get the groceries right now. Or you need to get the milk right now, for example. Right? We typically use the same style, the same format. And in reality, adult learning and child learning are very, very drastically different and involve two very different criteria. The adult method has a lot more autonomy. When we talk about adults, right, and we'll get to exactly the terminology we want to use, when we work with adults, there's a lot more autonomy that's involved in teaching older people. Many of you who are here today have chosen to be here and were not forced, unless you're like 12 and your dad said you have to go to the majlis because Ali Najaf's talking, right? Many of you who are here today are probably, how many of you here came here because you wanted to come here? Raise your, be honest. Yeah, don't lie to me. I see a couple of people who aren't raising their hands. I'll talk to you after the majlis. But most of us came here, and our intent is what? Is I want to be here because I want to be here. I really want to learn this stuff. I want to understand these things. There's a lot more autonomy involved in the adult learning method. In the child learning method, the child learning method is very much order-based, meaning I will tell you what to do, and you must do it. I will tell you how to do this, and you have to do it. You have no choice, right? In a classroom where a child is taught, do they have autonomy in what they want to learn? Do they have autonomy in what they want to learn? Kids? No, right? How many of you guys think yes, children have freedom in what they want to learn? You can tell me no or yes so I can know that you guys are awake and with me. Yeah, Kids have absolutely no autonomy. They are ordered to do things. How about adults, right? We can choose whether we want to go to university or not. We can choose whether we want to be in a physics class or not. We can choose whether we want to be in the lecture today or discussion today or not. We have that autonomy. And adult learning is very different than child learning. Adult learning is very much order-based. Adult learning is very much what? Autonomy-based. You will do this because you want to, not because you have to. And that's a very, very different method. And I'll get to exactly why it works and why it doesn't work with children and adults here. Something interesting is you don't have a dominance over the child which you don't have over the adult. There's a dominance that you have over children which you don't have over adults, right? When you have an adult, you can tell the adult, you must do this or else. The adult will say, look, I don't have to listen to you. While the child feels obliged to listen to you, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason why the adult, the child has to listen to you. And the last one is marketed by freedom and the ability to choose, and that obviously is autonomy. Now, here's the model. There's something in life known as pedagogy and andragogy. And I tell you, when I figured this out, I started seeing the world so differently that I was able to understand why people act. It really changed the way that I deal with people, okay? Pedagogy is the idea that you set yourself on top of someone or higher than someone, and you are distributing orders from the top to bottom. You, for example, will tell a person, you must do this or you must do that. Give me an example of settings where pedagogy typically takes place. Workplace. Yep. Any other? Depends though. Workplace depends on the manager and depends on the leader. Not every business is ran as pedagogy, but I agree with you. Some businesses, most managers think that I need to rule with an iron fist in order for me to work, and that's pedagogy. Give me some other examples of pedagogy. Where do we see pedagogy typically in our lives? Raise your hand and let me know. Raise your hand so I can pick on you. At home with your mother, right? Right? Your mom will tell you that. Anybody else? Give me some examples of pedagogy. Sports team. Ahsan, sisters, you guys, I haven't heard from you guys yet. School, what kind of school? Primary school, right? We call it elementary school. Primary school, elementary school, high school. You're really forced in a setting to do something. You have no choice. On the second level, you've got andragogy, which is a very different model. Mind you, what do you notice about the drawing on the left-hand side? What do you see? Where is the person with the green hat stationed? The green hat, which is the hat of power. Where's that stationed? Where's it stationed? The top, okay? On the bottom, those people who are under him, the males and the females, what's on their heads? Red cones, right? It's like a dunce cone, like you don't know anything and I want to teach you. The mentality of a pedagogue is you don't know and I will teach you. The mentality of a pedagogue is you have no autonomy and you have no ability to make decisions. Let me come into your world and into your life, lead you, give you direction, and teach you exactly how you should do it because you're doing it all wrong. That's the mentality of a pedagogue, right? And a pedagogue is very clear. He has dominance in his way or she has dominance in her ways. They will give people orders without question. They will never listen to a person's opinion. They will simply tell people to act and people will act. What are the negatives of being a pedagogue? What happens to the people who work under you? What are the negatives of being a pedagogue? Yep. Exactly. They feel reliant on the leader, A, and on a second level, what happens to them? They feel overpowered. I don't have the decision making that someone else might have, and hence I feel like I'm not enjoying my workplace. I can make my own decisions, and I feel confused and vulnerable. That's what happens to a person in a situation of a pedagogue. Andragogy is very different. Because in the andragogy model, where is the green hat stationed? In the middle. Who is above who? No one is above anyone else. It's not a triangle model, rather it's a circular model where everyone stands next to each other and there are arrows going back and forth. Now what do those arrows back and forth indicate? Communication. What else does that indicate? Which is, in sense? Okay, but what is that called? It starts with an A. Autonomy. I will discuss with you, and you will discuss with me. And there's a sense of autonomy in what I would like to do. I have freedom in working in this environment in the specific way that I would like. All of a sudden, I don't feel forced, but I feel there's a sense of autonomy. And the beautiful thing here is that the placement position of the leader is quite phenomenal and fundamental. The reason it's fundamental is because the leader all of a sudden takes himself from this pedestal that he's on and moves himself to a pedestal where he's surrounded by everyone. He sits with them and says, let's converse and talk so we can come to solutions. And all of a sudden, they start seeing him in a very different light. They respect him more. They take what he has to say to much more granted. They're not scared. They are actually feeding a change in the society that they're living in. And the models are very different. Give me an example of instances of andragogy. Raise your hand and tell me. Examples of andragogy. Where do we see andragogy in our lives? Where should it be, at least? It might not be there all the time, but where should it be? Really? There's no andragogy in our lives? We're just controlled all the time? Yes. What was that? Okay, an academy school where you debate with your classroom. Sure, a classroom environment can be very much andragogy based. I know schools in America where there is no curriculum for students, but students learn through projects that they choose to work on, and that's how they learn during the year. It's a beautiful way of working, and I definitely agree with you. You'll sit, you'll debate, you'll discuss, and you'll come up to solutions. Beautiful, great answer. What's your name? Muntalar, Ahsant. Anybody else? Give me some examples of andragogy based. Yes. The government. Okay, the government. And tell me why you think the government shows andragogy. Democracy. Very nice. Okay, good. In theory, I definitely agree with you. In practice, I might disagree. But in theory, I would agree with you. There's democracy, right? There's a parliament leader. There are individuals who might come and vote and come to a conclusive decision. Agreed. What's the other one look like? What kind of political model does the other one look like? Muntala. Dictatorship. Ahsan Jawad. So there's an obviously clear difference. Give me another example of andragogy. There's a really important one that people kind of miss. An example of andragogy. It's a very obvious one. Family, more in specific. Workshops, okay, I agree, but there's a more obvious one that I'm looking for. No, not brothers and sisters. Sisters, any answers from you guys? Relationships, exactly. In a marriage relationship, there is meant to be a feeling of andragogy in the relationship and not pedagogy. It's interesting because there is a male dominance theory which will say to you that no, the husband should take full charge of the relationship and the wife is not allowed to make any decisions. That's one view, right? The ones who are successfully married will say to you, no. A husband and wife must share decisions in the house. They must share responsibilities. They must share understandings and discuss and speak to each other because that's how they come to a communal understanding and feeling of the surrounding that they live in. And it's interesting because many people don't see it that way. Rather, they see it in a very pedagogy model. Let me ask you a question though, and I want to see your response on this one because I'm genuinely interested. Religion, is it pedagogy or andragogy? Take a second to think about it. And I want to get some answers because I want to see what you guys, who has good handwriting? Brothers, who has good handwriting? I'm asking the wrong crowd, but I have to. You want to write? So if you can just write people's opinions or just like bullet points of what the answers they give, because this is an important one. Is religion pedagogy or andragogy? Which method do we typically follow? I'll get to you in just a second. Jawad is silent. That makes it a hard question. Yes, brother. Okay, so Brother Ahmed's going to go. And let's come back, please. Let's come back. Ahmed. It becomes? Interesting. Okay, so Brother Ahmed says, when you're young, it starts off as pedagogy. You're kind of forced into it, right? You're told how to do this. And when you grow older, it becomes more of a form of what? Andragogy, where you give choices. Give me some examples of that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then when you grow older, you have a choice. Do you really think you have a choice? What if you don't pray? What's the consequence? Okay. But, okay. That makes sense. Any sisters would like to give an answer to that? Is religion pedagogy or andragogy? Nobody's got an answer. What was that? You guys think it's both? Okay. So most people are saying it's more pedagogy versus andragogy. Okay. Brothers, anybody have another opinion? Religion, is it pedagogy or is it andragogy? Yes. Why don't you come up closer? Because I probably can't even hear you. Come up a little bit closer, like right here, so I can hear you. Yeah, yep, that's good. The first one, why do you think is it? You can't just go back to your seat. Why do you think is the first one? Okay. Okay. Interesting. So you, he's already walked away. So you think, brother, what was your name? Yusuf. So you think the prophet is the pedagogue, the person with the green hat is the prophet. It kind of makes sense. The prophet wore green imamah, right? So a person with a green hat tells the people, you have to do it this way. And they're like, okay, we're going to do it, and that's it. You think that's how it is? No? Okay, but is that how we see religion today? Does the prophet tell people how to do it? Yeah? Okay, interesting. Anybody else? Yes, sister. Okay, interesting. So it's andragogy and pedagogy. I will say this. Please be very keen to this. The way that religion is given to us, right, might seem as a form of pedagogy. But in reality, there is a lot more andragogy in religion than there is pedagogy. And as we explain this in our lectures, we're talking about, the prophet never came and said, this is what you should do, you must follow it or else you burn in hell. But the prophet tried to get the people to think about religion, to bring it from within them, to try to get them to come up with the solutions in order for them to realize it. He would get them to dialogue about it. He would get them to discuss it. And religion is meant to be a lot more andragogy than it is meant to be pedagogy. Because the minute religion is forced or imposed upon a person, then that person immediately starts to do what? They start hating it. It's like, no, you forced it on me. I don't want to do this. You forced me to go to school. I don't want it. You forced me, for example, to marry this person. I don't want to do that. You forced me to eat this or to go here or to wear this. And the person starts to feel like their freedom is limited. And you know how much human beings love freedom. We love freedom. Right? Ever seen a 17-year-old get his, license or get his, the first time he's able to drive? He feels amazing, because that's everything for that person. So religion definitely has a lot more andragogy than pedagogy. And so let me ask this question, okay? Our relationships that we have with our parents, with our siblings, with the people around us, with the people who we work with, okay, typically take which type of method? Most of the time, which method do they take? Pedagogy, right? There's a lot of pedagogues that, mind you, pedagogues are not bad people. There's a lot of time where you will need a pedagogue in a system because they'll kind of manage things. At the same time, they can go so far at times as to removing andragogy and being simply pedagogues. And the way we would work, most of us, the way our parents work, is our parents are what? Disciplinarians. My parents are like that. You have to do this, right? Or else. It must be this way or else. You feel forced or compelled to do something. And if we realize that andragogy gives people's opinions and allows people autonomy, that immediately gets people to start thinking for themselves and find solutions to their own problems. Because a lot of the times we're so quick to give people solutions. Do this right now. Finish this way, or else, or this is wrong. How could you do this? You fool. Are you stupid? What are you doing? And we're quick to telling people that I'm the boss. You're lower than me. Let me tell you how to do it. And the method of the Prophet, and the best method, is where you tell people, look, I'm here and you're here. How do you think you could deal with this issue in a better way? And andragog's biggest weapon is the questions that he asks the person in front of them. What do you think, or how did you think you did on this? Like a child will typically come to a parent, and studies have shown how bad this is. A child will come to a parent and say, Dad, look at my drawing. What do you think? I got an A+. Right? I got an A+. Most studies will say that if you look at your child and say, good job, you did amazing. Good job, Jimmy, you did great. Right? That's the worst thing you could do for your child. But looking at the child and saying, what do you think of your drawing? How do you think you did? How do you think, where did you think you made a mistake? Where do you think you could do better? That immediately starts to get the person to start thinking, and you let them come up with the solution instead of you filling them or giving them that solution. But most people are very quick to respond, very quick to become leaders, so-called. They think that they're leading by giving people orders. But the best way is to get them to do what? To get them to think about what they're saying. Okay? Thank you, Ahmed. I appreciate it. We didn't write any points down. That's okay. We can just do it the next time we take from the audience. So, andragogy is very much letting the people do the thinking method versus you doing the thinking for the people. And a lot of the time, in our problems with people, we're very quick to give them decisions. We're quick to telling them exactly what to do. And the best leaders are those people who look at a person and say, how would you like to do this? Let me give you a brief example. We were running a youth organization in Dearborn known as Wise Learning, okay? And we had a lot of coworkers, and my style before working on the leadership development program was a very harsh style. I, as a person managing about 15 or 16 employees, I was very harsh in the style that I have, meaning this is how it should be done. Why aren't you in your class? Why aren't you managing people? Why aren't you doing this? And I really wanted things to be done in a very iron fist. And there were a couple of people who would always come out and rebel. Right? And my approach was, I don't get why these people are rebelling against me. I am their leader. I am here managing this business, this operation. What's going on? So I went to the leadership development program, and I realized that when you strip people's freedom and autonomy, they immediately feel lower, and they start to rebel against what you're doing to them because they feel like they have no power. Even in a marriage relationship, it's proven that when a husband comes and says, look, I make all the decisions, or the wife comes and says, I'll make all the decisions, there is a superiority complex that grows in the wife or the husband because they feel that I am lower than this person and I have to fight back. And that's how problems start, arguments start, right? There was one specific girl who I was working with who was always rebellious. She would always, come out and say, look, you're wrong, what you're doing is wrong, I disagree with you. And I really didn't get a chance to sit with her one-on-one. Now, the andragogy method is much more friendly than the pedagogy. In andragogy, the way that you deal with people is if you have an issue with them, you'll sit with them over a cup of coffee, right? You'll sit with them at times. You'll say, look, what's wrong? What are you feeling? I want to hear from you. I want to see what you have to say. I really want to tap into your mind and get where you're coming from. A pedagogue says, I don't care where you could be coming from. I'm right and you're wrong. Sorry, go home. And andragogy says, no, I invest in my employees and my workers. How can I work with them in order to get them to come up and realize what things they might be doing wrong? Or let me talk to them. So I had one girl who was, we had a lot of trouble. We were sitting at a meeting, right? Everyone left and she stayed, and she approaches me. Right? She says, look, we butt heads a lot, and I apologize. I really apologize. I didn't mean to. And for a second, I said, look, let me step back and see what's going on. Let me get some things from her. So I said, look, why? Right? And the question why is the best weapon that an andragogue has, because it really allows people to open up. People feel like you actually care about them. You want to ask questions about their lives. You want them to come up, right, and really feel something that I care about you. I care about the life that you're living. I want to see where you're coming from. So I said, look, what's wrong? What's happening? Why are you coming like this? You're always, very hard-headed. When we talk, you disagree with me. What's happening? She says, I have to be very honest with you. This was back in 2012. She says, my father just filed for bankruptcy. And he was multimillionaire, had a lot of businesses, and he just filed for bankruptcy. And we're going through a very, very tough period. And because I'm so stressed, the way it comes out is I have to challenge authority. Because my father was an authoritarian, I lost trust in my father. He says, I lost trust in anybody who thinks they have authority. And I said, look, I'm not here to tell you what to do. But if you have a better solution for something, then go with it, and I will respect that. So we had situations where I would make a decision, she would look at me and say, no, let's do it this way. And I would give and take from her because I wanted her to feel like she was part of the system. I wasn't just telling her what to do, but she had that autonomy to do things that she also wanted. Because then people feel valued. People feel like you care about them. All of a sudden, you were raised in their eyes because you're no longer just a superior authoritarian. You actually are part and parcel of those people. They care about you now because you've given them that autonomy. The question that I ask is for all of us. Are we pedagogues or are we andragogues in the way that we live? With people, with our mothers, fathers, siblings, brothers, sisters, husbands if we're married, future spouses, future wives, whatever. Are we pedagogues or are we andragogues in our lifestyles? Do we simply tell people to do, or do we give them that autonomy to do things they want to do, because we know when we let people do what they want to do, they feel freedom, and that freedom makes them feel empowered. It makes them reliant on their minds and on themselves, because we don't want sheep in our lives. We want people who think. We want people who can come up with their own decisions. And the question is, what are we? To help us with that, this is kind of the gist of what I was trying to say. They perform a lot better, exclamation mark. So I want us to break up into small groups, whether you want to be groups of 3s, 4s, depending on you, however you like to do it. The question that I'm asking is, what are some ways we can make our interactions more andragogy based, right? Whether it's with our families, with our coworkers, or with our spouses, how do you become more, not spouses, how do you become more andragogy based? How do you do things in a much more andragogy based way? So what kind of small things can you tweak in your day-to-day relationships with parents, with family, with coworkers that will show them that, hey, I'm more andragogy based than I am pedagogy based? Because this goes a long way. So let's kind of split up. You can sit in your seats. We'll take about, let's see here. We don't have that much time. So we'll take about 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. You know, 1 minute. 5 minutes. Okay, let me do this. Let me be andragogy based and ask the crowd, how much time is good for you guys? 4 minutes. How many agree on 4 minutes? Raise your hand. 4 minutes, okay. Okay, 4 minutes, it's agreed upon. That's the andragogy way to do it. Let's go ahead and break up, right? Small solutions. When we come back, we'll write them on the board, inshallah. Brother Ahmed will write it for us, and then we'll go from there. So go ahead and break up. We discussed what are some ways we can make our interactions more andragogy based with our families, co-workers, spouses. Hopefully we discussed some of these things. Let's share ideas. Let's share some ideas. Raise your hand and give me some ways that you found that you can make your interactions more andragogy based. Brother Ahmed will write it down, and then we can all hang it up and go over it just to kind of see that. Yes. Okay. Okay. So she's saying, um, so I want you to rephrase that. What is the active thing that you're doing when somebody is in that mood or in that state? What are you actually doing? No, you're not ignoring. When somebody's yelling or screaming their head off at you, you don't ignore them. There's something else that you do that really gets them to cool down and calm down. Active listening, yes. You're actively listening to what they say to make them feel that what you're saying is important. You ignore them, they're going to shout even louder so you can hear them. But active listening, and we'll, on Thursday, brothers in the middle, if I can get your attention, please. On Thursday, we're going to actually do active listening models. We're going to put 2 chairs up here, and I'm going to get some volunteers from the other side, inshallah. And we see exactly how active listening looks like, because most people don't even know how to listen. So active listening is a great way to show people that I'm an andragogy. I'm listening to what you have to say, right? I care about what you're saying. What you're saying matters to me. It's important to me. That bit of active listening goes a very, very long way, because all of a sudden the person feels appreciated, right? When you're sitting, your hands are crossed. Your eyes are making eye contact with the person. You're listening. You're nodding your head. Yes, I understand. That person feels like, you know what? This guy actually cares. Or this girl actually cares. This person actually cares about me. It makes a big difference in the way that they see you as a person. So active listening is perhaps one of the greatest ones that I was looking for. Give me some other examples. What are some things we can do? Some other examples. Yes, sister. Effective communication. In which sense? Yes. So what would be a better way to say that? Effective communication. What would you say? The word starts with an E. Emotional expression. Yeah, emotional expression is huge. Sitting with a person and saying, look, I feel this way when you tell me this, or I feel this inferior when I'm with you, or when you're talking to me, is one of the best ways to get people to understand exactly how you feel. Because sometimes you'll tell a person, look, I really don't feel comfortable with you. The person's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean you don't feel comfortable? I don't get it. But when you use exact emotion words, and we'll get to that hopefully by the end of today, when you use exact emotion words, what that does, it gets the person to realize and see exactly how you are feeling, because you've pinpointed that emotion. You tell someone, I'm feeling unappreciated, they will look at you and understand exactly what you're saying, especially if you express why. But if you tell a person, look, I don't feel important here. Like, what do you mean you don't feel important? Are you supposed to be important? But you say, I don't feel appreciated. All of a sudden, that emotion word rings a bell in the person's ear. So emotional expression is extremely important in getting people to open up to you as an andragogy. Because andragogues want people to open up to them. They want to hear what you have to say, right? They're not just putting you down, but they want to hear what you have to say. Anybody else? Thank you for that. Yes, brother. Okay. So go through, so appreciate what they're saying, right? By taking their ideas and putting them to the test and actually applying them, you make the person feel, how does a person feel if somebody takes their ideas and puts it to the test? Let me ask you a question. How old are you? 12. Imagine you came to the Shabab Al-Sibtayn committee tomorrow and you said to them, look, the way you guys are running things is very wrong. I've got a different model which I think would work. You're 12-year-old, right? You're 12, right? You're not that old. You're quite young. And if the Shabab Al-Sibtayn committee says, you know what? We actually like what you're going to say and we're going to apply it because we think you're right. How would you feel as a 12-year-old when somebody says that to you? Honestly. How do you feel? What would the word be? Huh? Not gassed. Somebody said gassed. It's like, I feel like a boss. How would you feel if somebody came to you, give me a word? Not a slang word, an actual emotion word. Man, nobody here talks about emotions at all, I can tell. Yeah. What? Confident and appreciated. Right? You'd feel appreciated. Because somebody took your opinion, right? What was your name? Hussein. Somebody took Hussein's opinion and said, look, I like this, I want to apply it. All of a sudden you would feel in this model, listened to. You would feel like somebody cares about your opinion. And when you show someone that, especially young children, right? When a young man or a young girl are asked, what do you think about this? Like, wow, you want my opinion? Like, yeah, I want your opinion. You're important. They will feel like leaders. Then all of a sudden they want to stand and make a difference in our community. When we neglect young people and don't give them that opportunity to shine, that's when they don't care. That's when they don't get involved. So you're absolutely right. Putting their, or just making people feel appreciated would work, right? Feeling appreciated. Thank you for that, Hussein. Anybody else? Yes, sister. Sorry, I can't hear you. So involving others. Okay, so taking, again, I'm going to follow that to being appreciated, because what that is make people feel like they're important. They feel appreciated. They feel important, that you're allowing them to be part of a task. Just involving other people. So that would be a perfect example. Anybody else? Yes, sister. Yeah. So spending quality time with people, really getting to know them, asking about them, caring about them. And that's what a leader in andragogy does. He really creates an atmosphere of care for people. So I guess the other one would be caring for people, right? Or giving them time. Brother Ahmed mentioned something interesting. As a person who runs his own business, he says, look, at times I have to apply pedagogy in my work. I just don't have a choice, right? At times, there are people who you need to say to them, this is your post, or this is your position, or this is what you must do. I don't fundamentally disagree with pedagogy. I just think when all of our relationships become pedagogy-based, people lose their freedom. So pedagogy should be there. Giving people their job assignment should be there. But in the way you deal with them, the way in which you deal with their problems, the way in which you deal with their concerns, the way in which you deal with their arguments, with them coming to you and saying, I can't do this or I can't do that, and the way you support them and help them grow, andragogy is the best method. But in the way that you run your business, I would say definitely pedagogy has to be there, right? Because people at times need order and they need balance. Does that make sense to everyone? Any questions about pedagogy or andragogy? Any questions? Okay, good. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you, Ahmed. I appreciate it. Okay. The next bit that's extremely important, that's going to carry on until tomorrow and Thursday, is the bit about emotional intelligence. And this is very, very important, because this kind of falls into everything. Emotional intelligence is marked by the ability of a person to understand his or her emotional state and how fast they're able to detect other people's. So emotional intelligence is actually being able to take the feelings that you have and converting them into words and being able to communicate them to people and detecting those feelings in the people in front of you. If there's something that really makes a human being a master at dealing with other people, whether it's I tell you, if you want to look at all successful relationships between couples, husband, wife, it's this idea of being emotionally sane, right? Being emotionally sane. It is important to men and women, and it's sad because a lot of the times in our communities, we downplay this for men and we upplay it for women, all right? This is very important for guys, because there's always this idea that women are emotional. Women, it gets thrown so much. Women are emotional, and men get out of it like it's as if they are not emotional at all, or they don't feel emotions, like they're robots just walking into walls. They feel no emotion, right? And in our society, we downplay the emotion of the male, right? We tell women to care for their emotions. Listen to your heart, feel the emotion, cry, be emotional, love, care, hug, enjoy with other people, right? See other people and love them for who they are. But we downplay it with men. And we tell men to toughen up, right? We tell them to be men, right? How many times do you hear a kid, if he's crying, what will his older brother tell him? Be a man, right? Sir Rijal, stop crying. Stop feeling. Don't listen to your emotions. Don't cry. Don't bring that out. And what that's created is a society filled with females who have emotions, understand their emotions because they're normal, and a society of men who just neglect how they feel and their emotions. Like, look, I don't care. I don't care about emotions. Right? And then they look at women and think, women are crazy. They're so emotional. And it's actually the opposite, because men just don't tune into that emotion. Right? Emotion is extremely, extremely important. To pick it out, to understand it, to feel it, and to work with it is one of the most important things possible. Right? And this is something that I want to get to, because this idea of downplaying it in men is very dangerous. I was mentioning in one of my lectures, I think 2 or 3 nights ago, there was a study done at Yale University, which was trying to see emotional men versus emotional women, and which ones actually are more emotional. This is a scientific study. And what they found was, even though women get emotional more often, when men get emotional, they get emotional at much heightened heights. It takes much longer time for a man's heart rate to decrease if he gets angry, sad, or mad, right? It takes a lot more for a man to come back to equilibrium, while it takes a woman a much less time for her to come back to equilibrium after she's cried or gotten upset. And the study showed that a relationship's balance and positivity is typically linked to the man, because if a man cannot be emotionally sane, then the relationship can never move on. Right? If the man is not emotionally sane, because he gets angry often, his heart rate is always going to be up. He's always going to be upset. And if the man is not emotionally sane, then he really won't be able to do much. Let's kind of get into this here. Okay, what we're going to do is I want to take a small break, and I'll conclude with this small activity. What I want us to do is we're gonna pair you guys up into twos. Okay, actually let's do threes. We'll pair you up into threes, right? Find 3 people that you're paired with, either people you're sitting next to or not. We're gonna play a small game to see how emotionally sane we are, right? The sisters will have their own thing, and the brothers will have their own thing. A lot of people downplay this idea of actually saying or using emotional words. Most people will not use emotional words. When you talk to people, they'll tell you, look, I'm so upset, I'm so angry, I'm so sad, I'm so angry, I'm so sad, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm happy, I'm angry, I'm happy, I'm sad. That's all people use when it comes to emotions. They don't feel unappreciated, they don't feel jealous, they don't feel low, they don't feel these things they never bring up. Most people are limited in their emotional vocabulary to happy, sad, angry, or maybe even hungry, right? 4 different things. They will not go to more than that. That's the only emotion that they'll use. And the most successful people are those who actually bring out the emotions they feel. We'll talk about this more tomorrow, but I kind of want to do a charades game. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass out flashcards to every group of 3. And these flashcards will have emotions on them, right? So you and your partners, what you have to do is you have to take these flashcards. Don't show them to the people in front of you, right? One person will hold the flashcards. They will act out the emotion that's on the card, and the person in front of them has to guess what emotion they're feeling. Okay? I know, it's a little... By the way, it's not going to be easy, because the emotions that I've picked are things which you can't just tell from seeing a person. I really want to show us how we are so out of tune when it comes to any sort of emotion. Because when a person acts a certain way in front of us, we can't tell what emotion they feel. And I want to prove that to this game. So I'm going to give you guys flashcards, right, to certain groups. So one person will hold the cards. They will act the emotion, and the 2 people in front of them have to guess it. Kind of like emotional charades. Are we cool with that? Everybody gets that? Okay, so get into groups of 4s. You can kind of stay where you are. You can stand to the side. You can, sit in the corner over there, wherever you want to do. Find a small spot or sit next to each other. And I'm going to come around and pass the cards to you. Make distinctive groups of 4 so I can tell actually where you are. 4. Okay? So, funny story. One day I was in Dearborn, and I was doing this charades thing, but I did it a bit differently. I got two people to come up front, and they were. I gave one person a card, one of the brothers a card, and I gave another brother a card. He had to guess what the guy was saying. So a lot of these cards say low, pitiful, anxious, embarrassed, emotions which we typically feel, but we have a very hard time saying. We just clump everything into I'm happy or sad. One or the two. I'm either happy or sad. We don't differentiate. So I gave him a card which said low, and I must have written the L as a C because he thought the card said cow. This guy literally got on four knees. He literally got on his hands and knees, and he started mooing in front of a crowd of about 300 people. I am not kidding you when I say that. This is a real story. I cannot make this up. This kind of shows you. I don't think he thought about it. Is cow even an emotion? I feel really cow. Like, I don't get that. Anyway, let's come together. Shh, let's come together. Okay, let's come together. The reason I do this is because I want us to see this is not easy, right? You can guess if a person's happy or sad. Okay. But how do you feel something like the person feels pitiful? How do you guess something where a person feels embarrassed? How does a person tell you I feel jealous without actually saying it if he or her feel too shy to say it? Most people can't say that because they haven't been raised in an emotionally sane environment. When I was a child, I'd have a lot of friends who were very, very angry. Young kids who were my age who would just punch and hit and smack. They're always fighting. And I thought to myself, why are these kids like that? It's because they lack some sort of emotional expression. They have a very hard time expressing their emotions. What I wanted this to do for us is show us that we are very limited in our emotional vocabulary. We use either happy or sad. The idea of being jealous is in our books. We don't feel safe enough to tell people, I feel embarrassed. We don't feel safe enough to tell a person, I feel jealous. We don't feel safe enough to tell a person, I feel unappreciated, right? Or I feel too overworked. Or I feel, for example, shy. Or I feel low. Feeling low is one of the biggest things that people feel, right? Especially those who have personalities such as ENFPs, people who are very emotionally driven, feel low all the time. They feel really unimportant, and that's a very big feeling for them, and they never identify it. So this kind of helps us see that it's not easy identifying emotions, and unless we speak about them, unless we look at people and say, I feel low, or I feel embarrassed, or I feel sad, it's very hard for people to understand the emotions that we feel, or even sympathize with us. Tomorrow, we'll discuss a lot more about creating that open environment, empathy, the iceberg model, and then finally Friday, inshallah, Thursday, inshallah, we'll get into relationship part, and we'll do the role plays of the communication, talking, and what really works and doesn't work. Any questions before we conclude? Any questions? Friday is a Q&A. We're working on getting a Q&A put together, inshallah. That's the last night, general Q&A. Any other questions? Okay. Just a question. How many of you have found this beneficial in some way? Be honest. Good. Beneficial. All right. Thank you very much. Tomorrow we'll meet. Let's try to get started at 10:30 tomorrow. I know you're all breaking your fast. If we can get here a bit early so we can start at an earlier time tomorrow, that'll be a lot better. And we'll continue a lot of these different activities and workshops. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.